happens with Jimmy Garoppolo?
Mm-hmm.
He still isn't traded, Rohan. And from all of the things that we've been hearing when it comes to Lynch and Shanahan, it doesn't seem like cutting Jimmy is an option. And it also doesn't look like there's just a bona fide team that is out there ready to trade for Jimmy Garoppolo. I think some of the good news is a team like the Giants now might throw their hat in the arena because they didn't give Daniel Jones, sign him for his 5th-year option. So that shows that they're not all the way sold on him. So maybe more competition means more of a chance, because before it was just Carolina. But how do you see this Jimmy Garoppolo situation actually ending with the 49ers?
Right. So I mean, we've been like witnessing it firsthand that the 49ers aren't a team that's going to budge. And at this point, I'm not going to say that it's unrealistic that the 49ers could potentially hold him on the roster and acquire a 3rd-round compensatory selection when Garoppolo signs with another team next year. However, I will point this out from what I've heard and what I've seen, other outlets kind of provide. Jimmy Garoppolo, the 2 locations, or the location that he was kind of mocked to prior to the draft, was the Carolina Panthers. Now, the Carolina Panthers, a team with a lack of selections in this past draft, used one of those, traded up especially, and used one of those to select Ole Miss quarterback Matt Corral, who, in my opinion, is a bit of a project. He's got good potential, but he's a bit of a project. So I don't think he necessarily starts on in week 1. However, the Carolina Panthers also house Sam Darnold, the quarterback position, and to me, that team isn't going to be primed to win more games than they won last year, and so that's why I'm a little hesitant about that being their final quarterback room. There have been reports that the Carolina Panthers aren't kicking the tires on a Jimmy Garoppolo, potential relationship, and I think that though at this point it is almost assuredly known that if Garoppolo moves to the Panthers, Sam Darnold would have to come back in some capacity. I don't know if it'd be the entirety of the contract and things like that. And also, I don't think Carolina has a ton of cap space as compared to some of the other teams, whereas the 49ers might even have to eat the 49ers might have to eat some of the money or take back the entirety of Darnold's contract in a way. And so that's where there is a little skepticism around that situation, right? Although that isn't a potential possibility, and obviously taking back the full contract of Darnold's, his entire $18 million for this year, would likely net you a higher pick in return for Jimmy Garoppolo. And I mean, the 49ers like quarterbacks that just sit on the roster, right? So I mean, Sam Darnold really can be there as that 3rd string, 4th string, whatever string quarterback in 2022, likely the 2nd string. But yeah, the other option, obviously, one that not many people have floated around, I think has popped up a little more post-combine, I think that is the Houston Texans. And I mean, when you look at the Houston Texans right now, who do they have? Davis Mills. However, as I said earlier in the show, the NFL is a year-to-year league. Every coach, especially coaches of the Texans, should know that even if you don't necessarily get worse year to year, if you don't marginally improve, then you might be out of a job. And Lovie Smith over there, he's a pretty old head coach. It's not like he's got room for development. He's a pretty well-established head coach. And so if he doesn't show results, the Houston Texans might do another one and done and try and hire one of the hot names at the head coaching market out of some of the bigger branches, potentially even a guy like DeMeco Ryans next year at the head coaching position. So I think in order to retain his job, at least from what we saw last year, Lovie Smith might need to win 6, 7, 8 games next year, or at least 6 games, in my opinion. And so that's where you have the Jimmy Garoppolo, Davis Mills thing. And to me, I don't know if Jimmy Garoppolo wins that job in training camp, but at least he provides you adequate competition once he returns and becomes healthy. And so the only question then is, what's the compensation? Because Houston can actually take on the contract, right? They can take on both Mayfield's or Garoppolo's. They have $30 million in open cap space. However, what's the compensation? Will it be better than the 3rd round pick that the 49ers will acquire via compensatory selection? Probably not. And so that's where the debate happens. Do you think that Jimmy Garoppolo stays on the roster? 49ers acquire a 3rd round pick? If not, will they settle for less compensation to get him off the roster? That's where I'm a little skeptical, because they've said multiple times that they won't cut him. even if it can help their roster in 2022, or use that money to carry over into 2023 free agency. But yeah, that's my 2 cents on it. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, Fable JVC says cut him. James Coombs says agree, he gets cut. And that's actually not one of the options that you talked about. And I think I tend to agree with you. I don't see the 49ers cutting Jimmy. They're just too dug in with how good they think he is and how quality of a player that he thinks he is. I mean, he obviously has done a lot as far as his character for this team. He's obviously a locker room favorite to a lot of players that are on the roster. So I see it more than likely him being on the team and them waiting for one of these teams that is competing to have their quarterback get injured and then trade him somewhere during the season for like a higher pick for a team that may be more desperate, right? So that's really what I think is gonna happen. Just because at that point, Jimmy Garoppolo's shoulder will be, strong enough to where people will see if he could still be a starter in the league or not. I just don't think that. I think that there's this notion that they're just waiting for him to be healthy, where they could cut him and then not even have to eat the $7.5 million. I just don't think that $7.5 million is as important to them as otherwise they would have. They could have cut him by now and done some stuff with that money. I just think that they already plan on spending that money, whether it's to Jimmy or not. My question to you is, do you see a scenario where they might even extend Jimmy and keep him on the roster? No.
I honestly don't, because first of all, that takes away every prerogative that they've tried over the past couple of years, right? First of all, you want a quarterback on a rookie contract. I think that is there. I can see restructuring Garoppolo. I'd hate it if they did it, because I think that's one of the worst situations you can do financially, but they can shoulder it given the TV deals. They can restructure Garoppolo because he'd end up still being a free agent next year. But if you extend him, guess what? You're losing out on that third-year compensatory pick. And if they do it, I think it would be one of the worst moves they could do. Because first of all, you're not getting draft compensation in return. You're also extending him and probably changing his cap hit for this year, meaning his cap hit is going to be fairly high for the next 2 seasons. I'd assume it'll be a 2-year extension of sorts, maybe even just a 1 year. But that means your cap hit for Garoppolo is going to be significantly high for 2 seasons when you're trying to roster build and really, in reality, the 49ers have the best shot of winning a Super Bowl this year or next season. I think that is the majority of their window. It's essentially for the duration of Trey Lance's rookie deal, but it is for this year or next season. I don't think that it extends much longer than that. And so doing this just significantly hurts you. And so if you want to roster Garoppolo for 2022, do that and take the 3rd-round compensatory pick, but you can't keep him at a above average salary, potentially even a starting caliber salary for 2 seasons. I think that really, really significantly hurts you. Although they could potentially restructure him if they want to save the $18 million or so and make it $9.99 for the next 3 seasons.
Do you see a scenario where Jimmy Garoppolo is on this team the whole season?
Yeah, that could happen. I do think if he's on this, if he's on the roster week 1, there is a solid shot, right? Obviously, the expectation still would be that if a team gets an injury, maybe any team per se that's trying to compete gets an injury over there in 2022, or even they don't have to compete, right? If they're trying to keep their job, because injuries don't really keep you from sustaining your job. If you're performing poorly. So maybe if there's an injury to a quarterback, which we've seen a ton of in the past couple of years, then Garoppolo gets flipped. But obviously, if there's no big time injury, you can keep it. I think it would be even worse, really, to keep him on the roster and then cut him mid-season. That'd be really, really not, in my books, a smart move. And I also believe that his entire $27.5 million base salary does get guaranteed game 1. I'm not fully sure on that. That's the one contract thing I'm trying to figure out right now. But I do think that it gets guaranteed come week 1, which is I know people have called it the inflection point. So I do think that he won't be cut by any team, even if be it the 49ers or a team he gets traded to, should he be on a roster week 1.